Cool, and we should. So thanks everyone for coming to another ComCom meeting. This is for Thursday, February 20th, 2020. So let's get started with the updates from initiatives.
So in the ComCom outreach initiative, we have decided to build this meetup in a box, sort of a CLI or a sort of a starter package. So everyone can basically host their own meetups or free of cost with a Jamstack based starter. We are kind of, in the last meeting, we were kind of deciding around which sort of Jamstack meta framework we need to go with. I was of the opinion that we can do a hackathon and probably live code it with a bunch of people around and get together a little bit of the community online and offline, and probably go with 11T since it's only Node.js and JavaScript and no other flavors of Svelte, React, or Vue. So it's a bit more inclusive in this particular in our community of Node.js. But there are different opinions. Someone likes Get3, someone likes Next.js. People are fan of Next. So that's pretty much what's going on. Feel free to hop on there.
Awesome. And is that in the outreach repo itself, or is that in a repo? Or is there not a repo for it yet?
No, it's actually, there's not a repo. We are deciding which one we should use, and then we will, kind of try to build it on a hackathon.
Awesome, cool.
Awesome.
Any other initiative updates?
Hi, folks. I'll give a quick one on website redesign, but first I'll check, is there any background noise coming from my end aside from me?
A little bit, but it's negligible, it's fine.
Okay. So website redesign is picking up a little bit of steam. We started putting together OKRs to help, well, partly follow the process of ComCom, but at the same time give us some more grounding over the long term. As part of that, we're also reducing the scope of what we want to deliver within the next couple of months to that is deliver the functionality being served by the current website rather than make significant improvements over it. That way we can at least replace the old one and say it's like at par functionally, and then start building out anything additional. And to that end, similarly to outreach, people have been enjoying having bi-weekly sort of hackathons where we make short progress. And I think that will continue. That's happened a couple of times in the fall and recently started happening again. If anyone wants to join, they're arranged through node.js.dev, the repository. Also, there's some coordination happening on Slack. If anyone wants to get added to that, they can open up an issue.
So it sounds like that this hackathon thing is a newer pattern that we're following. If we're going to be doing that, I think it'd be really nice to, at least if they're not recurring, get them on the calendar, and also get that, which I have access to, and I think anyone can like ask to be added to be able to have access. That's through the admin repo. And then additionally, making sure we're kind of amplifying that as much as possible through individuals who might be interested in helping promote that in Node, and also through Node, the Node.js social stuff itself. If that's something that folks would be interested in, I think we should try to maximize that impact that ComCom is having where we can.
That's a good idea. Is this then meant to be run, is the idea that it will be run similarly to meetings? Because I don't think people record or stream it, whereas if we're recording it, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you, I apologize.
The end of the thought was, I don't think it was planned to be a very outward facing sort of event. So if people are doing that, are we now saying anyone can join, but also live stream it, for example?
So if it's not already anyone can join, then completely ignore everything and then I do think that the live streaming I personally feel we do over-index on it a little bit for the value that we get out of it. I think the specific value is the transparency into processes. So like, we're discussing right now how to do this thing, and it's nice to be able for someone to go and be able to look at that and how we decide things. But I don't think that that's necessarily a direct benefit, and like the artifacts themselves are not like getting a ton of traction, which is fine. But that's I think it's more of a we do the meetings for transparency and this stuff rather than for like social being able to share. One question I do have is which Slack is that discussion happening in?
It was just dropped in the chat. It's in Node Slack.
Okay.
The channel is hashtag website redesign dash.
Is this so? I don't know if it was shared more broadly, but the OpenJS Foundation Slack is now a paid Slack. So the history won't get nuked after 10,000 messages in other channels happen. And that also opens up some other possibilities of like what you can do with that Slack channel, or that Slack team. So is this something that we would potentially want to have in that, as like, since that Slack is kind of official in a way for the foundation as a whole? Is that something y'all would be interested in at all?
That probably should be discussed at the meeting. I definitely see advantages there.
Yeah.
At least for this project, which is, for example, a project that's been running for many, many months.
Yeah.
There is the advantages in searching past conversations.
Yeah. Cool. Any other initiative updates? Cool. In that case, we can move on. Let me go ahead and pull up the agenda again. By the way, do we have?
Do you want? Do you want any CPC updates or anything like that?
Yes, that would be excellent. Thank you.
Great. So let's see. We meet weekly. We kind of been moving forward on a bunch of things. Before I forget, I'll just mention the OpenJS World CFP closes on Friday. So if you haven't already and you have some talks you want to submit, it closes soon. And also been working on the Collab Summit as well. No real updates there, but if you're interested, we're in the Summit repo. Conversations happening there and bi-weekly meetings as well. Let's see, in the CPC work, we've moved forward on Travel Fund, landing that so that we can unblock any requests that are already in the pipeline, and we're kind of iterating on a couple of things around that in terms of like projects managing their own requests and travel funds and such. We also had a meeting around code of conduct, and excuse me, are spinning up the code of conduct panel, which would do any moderation at the foundation level. There are a bunch of open questions still around code of conduct and escalation and cross projects and these sorts of things that we still need to work through. But the good news is we are moving down that path. But we have landed an MVP in terms of the code of conduct for the cross project council and the foundation.
Yeah, and I guess for this group, figuring out who the node representative is going to be, because one of the optionally the impact projects can have a representative on that code of conduct path.
Yep. I think, was there an email that went out asking about that from Brian? I'm not sure. I gotta check my mail.
I think he was going to coordinate the CPC and the board one, but I think the projects, I think we were going to go back to the reps to ask for that.
Yep. All right. So we should open an issue around that and figure out how to make that decision. Beyond that, I think that's kind of the big stuff. I I also wanted to add that I had suggested like a community committee open office hours, and I did one before the holidays that went really well. My aim with that is to try and get more folks involved and onboard folks into the work that we do and Node projects and the surrounding efforts around there. Over the holidays, put a bunch of thought into it. I thought that it would make more sense to elevate it to the OpenJS level. Obviously, my focus is still very much on Node, and the call still really focuses on Node and Node-related projects. But having it at that level, then I can help people, direct people to other foundation projects as well, and try to generally be a conduit for folks getting involved and organically connect with people to help drive more and diverse voices into the work that we do, and hopefully that bubbles up in the leadership and all that. And also, sorry if it's a little noisy here. I'm at a Starbucks in a supermarket.
It's zero background noise, so you're good. Cool. Do you have any updates on the board, Michael? Or are we good on that?
I was just typing in. I don't think there's any updates from the board, although the meeting is next week. So if there's any issues, let me know. The other thing I'd mention is just the travel fund did land at the OpenJS level, so it's there and active. Part of that discussion resulted in like adding a section that says if projects want to dedicate, like basically request a dedicated allocation for some event or something, that's possible. So just people to be aware of if we ever want to do that. But as it is, we don't need to do that. We can just use the travel fund and have things approved at the OpenJS level.
Awesome.
I think that's all I've got.
Cool. And with that, I think we can move on to the agenda. The agenda is pretty heavy with things that I've created or started. There's mostly those things, and most of them are things we've been discussing for a while. Starting off with, I might have duplicated something on accident. Yeah, I did. Hold on, let me just correct this real quick. So starting off with Node.js admin, there is the open issue of the social stuff. Per Michael's suggestion, I've been trying to get up a proof of concept. I've been working with Electron to get them, a proof of concept of Twitter together. I've been working with their outreach working group, and I have gotten approval, landed, and now I'm trying to go through the Twitter API approval process, which is a pain in 2020. They do not make it easy. So going through that work with Electron to kind of have a proof of, this is something that can be used for a project like this, before I go ahead and submit a PR kind of documenting what I think this should look like, and then as a straw person document, so I can kind of understand better how that'll be impactful to that proposal. So that's the create of that. I don't think there's been any other progress from, there's been no other discussion or commentary on that.
I assume that Rachel's still doing what she did before while we work on this, or yeah, okay. Yep. Yeah, I mean, we took it off the TSC repo agenda until there's an update.
Yeah.
So that won't probably be anything until we see, what your proposal looks like.
Exactly. So that's good. There is another, I'm adding this to the agenda now. Let me just add that comment. Cool. So I added that to the minutes. There's a new issue for internationalization in Node.js admin. The internationalization folks need access to, or have requested access to a GitHub token that will allow them to do the work with crowding. So there's currently a question on that issue of is the personalized token required, or is it something that we can do publicly, either with an individual's GitHub account or like I just suggested the Node.js bot account, the Node.js-GitHub-bot account. So there's some questions there, but this is a ComCom initiative. So if y'all could, if this is something that you could help with, that would be super appreciated. So more of just a, heads up there. Cool. Any comments or questions on either of those topics? No? Cool. With that, the next agenda item is, sorry, updating the agenda dynamically. The next agenda item is starting the examples initiative. So with this, the PR was merged. Super excited about this. I documented the next steps. So creating the repo, which has to go through Node.js admin. As far as I'm aware, that's the current process. Then figuring out how we can run tests against, so basically if you have 20 projects in a giant repo, not having to run all of their tests every time someone from Net makes a PR would be ideal, just so we don't have to give false fails to folks and degrade the developer experience there, and also to save time. So it looks like Jest has a feature that'll help with this. So have to go and prototype that out to make sure that would work. But theoretically, that's an option. And then getting a few example projects in, which I think will be the easy and the fun part. So that's pressing. Just need to kind of begin the process steps to go ahead and create the repo. So, any questions on examples?
So you have requested to create an examples repo?
I have not yet. I haven't had to. I've been mostly out of office this week and traveling last week, so I haven't had the time to do that yet. But that is
no worries. No worries. I'm just asking for notes.
Yep. Yeah. So that's my next step for that. Any other questions? Cool. So next agenda item is community OKRs. I think this can be closed pending Manil's question. I have too many GitHub issues open. Specifically, is this something that we're requiring to be implemented at the initiative levels? Or is this specifically something that the ComCom is implementing, and I guess it would be optional for the initiatives? Is this something we want to mandate from initiatives, or is this something that we would like to strongly suggest, or not suggest at all and just have it be ComCom?
I think that trying to force things downward can oftentimes cause friction. So
yeah,
suggested or whatnot.
I would generally agree with that. Any other thoughts or other differing opinions?
I agree with continuing our current policy to not force things downward. On the other hand, not being aware of the fact that OKRs exist at the ComCom level will detract from a lot of its benefits. I think what is less likely to be considered prescriptive is to interface with each initiative's champions and ask if this is something that they'd get any value implementing, and whether or not they'd be willing to suggest it in the initiative. And if so, maybe ComCom can help them put something together. So this is more something along the lines of having more conversations around it, at least make people aware of the fact that ComCom has OKRs, and this is something that initiatives can use to ground themselves.
Yeah,
I
I
want-
100% agree with that.
I wonder too if we could make it clear to initiatives how they would align to our OKRs, and kind of I guess give them some guidance there, or document some guidance there.
I think sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, like, what we would expect, what we would envision happening.
Right. And I would be happy to go and help kind of work with them on that specifically if that's something that they would want. Like going and documenting kind of what we do, I think, which is already documented, and then how that could be adapted to them and how they could kind of align the work they're doing to that, and how they could create their own if they were interested in any of that. So yeah, I think that those two things combined of having working with the champions, which is like kind of what that championship role is for, to ensure that this is communicated to them and that these are the kind of COMCOM goals, and hopefully that they are already encompassing what the initiatives are doing. That's theoretically what should be happening already, and then just basically figuring out how we can make sure that next time we do OKRs, they are encompassing what they're doing, and like our goals are the work of the initiatives, if they're not currently. So yeah.
Do we have any visibility into exactly how Electron uses their OKRs across the project? Because I'm aware, for example, that Electron has OKRs at the project level. So now we do for COMCOM initiatives. But do they have, say, an equivalent of initiatives or working groups that then take those?
Yeah, so the Electron is much smaller. Well, actually, it's probably about roughly the same size as COMCOM. But they basically have their summit, and at their summit, they go through and like basically everyone in Electron comes to the summit. They go through and agree on their overall OKRs, and then they split off into smaller groups of like 3 to 4 people that are like specific to those initiatives, and go and like figure out how their OKRs tie into the greater OKRs. And generally everyone in Electron is very much on the same page of like the things that need to get done and the things that need to be worked on. So it's less of a challenge for them. They have less of I think of a communication barrier than we do. So that this is a very synchronous, like 2-day activity that they do in that context. So yes, and it's extensive is how I would say that. But yeah, they have working groups. It's basically the same structure as Node and the TSC. They modeled themselves after us, and kind of did some things a little bit different, but basically the same. So.
And now we're taking some process back. That's nice.
Yep.
One thing I would like to see is how we've used OKRs, how we use OKRs here reflect how organizations benefit from OKRs. Because, for example, COMCOM's goal is to unblock initiatives. We are there to empower initiatives to get stuff done. The way OKRs would help us and them would hopefully be if the initiatives were to start taking OKRs and getting their own OKRs down, they would then at the summits be able to bring OKRs to the table and say, hey, this is not something that should just be like the work of one initiative. If we like level up this OKR to COMCOM, then other initiatives can hopefully align with it. So it's a way for initiatives to align with other initiatives. So this first time COMCOM did the OKRs first, but hopefully in future, initiatives will bring OKRs to the table and we'll all agree on it as a whole.
Yep, very much so. I 100% agree with that. And I think in Electron, the kind of example that we're taking from up-leveling their process back to the origin, they very much like the people who are doing that initial work. It does look like it's top down, but it's the people in the working groups who are going and setting kind of asserting their OKRs and making sure that everyone is aware of them, so that everyone can work toward them, even if they are like originally from a specific group, like the release group or something. They can then go and kind of make sure it's on everyone's radar as something that can be worked on, and people can figure out, oh, this is actually aligned with what we need to do too, or what we're interested in doing. So yeah, I very much agree with that. Cool. So do we have any other questions, thoughts, comments, feedback on OKRs? And an extension of that, should this issue be closed?
I'd say yes.
Okay, cool.
Say yes to. Also, once we started talking about Electron, I was focused on the conversation and stopped taking notes. So if anybody wants to add anything there on the
Awesome.
meeting notes.
Cool. Great. I think we can move on. So I'm going to close that issue actually. And then we can move on. I'm going to remove the label too. We can move on from there. So next agenda item is update README with new process in Node.js collection. Waleed said he was not going to be able to make it today, but he does have a request of he needs some help or suggestions on what benefits can we offer to people who sign up as a reviewer. So, you know, if you're interested in helping with that, or if you have time and cycles to help with that, that's an initiative that has kind of a pending question. So now that I've shared that, the README updates in this look pretty close. I just left another couple comments, but otherwise this is very close to being done after quite a bit of work over time, over the last 7 months. So hopefully we're able to land that soon. Oh, Rachel, I'm sorry, I didn't realize you were on the call. I apologize for having spoken for you earlier when Michael asked if you were still doing the Node.js stuff.
No, you're good. No, you were good. I
Okay.
was on mute, so you were just quicker than I was. But
He always sneaks in.
I do. I don't mean to. I just been a crazy couple of weeks. But yeah, I'm here.
Awesome.
You have keys to the back door.
So yeah, is there, you know, I think this is more of just an update that PR is super close to being done. And, you know, there is a request from Waleed of like thoughts on what we can do to, you know, incentivize folks to participate. So, you know, if you have any thoughts on that, definitely please do share. I think that PR specifically would be the correct place to do that. So any comments, questions, thoughts, feedback on this one? Cool. It looks, oh no, there's one more thing. In Node.js.dev, onboarding Salo and Ben Halverson. I think, so I am happy to add these people. So, you know, I think you're both on the call, Salo and Ben. Manil, which team should we be using for this? We can't hear you.
Sorry, could I also add one other question?
Yeah.
And when we know which team, can we do something about those who are in the other team, or you know, about the other team altogether? Yeah, thanks.
If I think yes. I just want to make sure that like there's not a reason for those teams to independently exist. But theoretically, yes.
So I
Manil,
mean, that's what I meant to say. Thank you.
yeah. Nice.
Yeah, I think because those teams formed because there were two separate repos. Anyone on the call who wants to correct me, please feel free to. And then we merged it, and now we don't have a separate website redesign repo for admin and Node.js-dev for development, and now they're all one. I am not sure what the impact would be of merging these teams or getting rid of one of them.
Gotcha. There's also no maintainer for the Node.js.dev one, which is interesting. I didn't know that was a possibility. Yeah, so I guess this is a good continuation of that issue. Since it is now Node.js.dev, I assume at least putting everyone who is in website redesign into the Node.js.dev one makes sense. And then we can potentially nuke the website redesign one if that's needed. But yeah, it does seem like a little bit unnecessary right now. I guess it would be important to see what access each of those. So website redesign has access to 4 repositories. 2 of those are normal, and Node.js.dev only has, so Node.js.dev just has access to 1 less repo as write access. So it just doesn't have access to the website redesign. So it doesn't actually look like there's any tangible difference between the 2, other than like access to an archived repo that they can use. So
are there any impacts for the tooling that have been set up?
That's a great question that I have no clue what that tooling is. I've not really investigated that. So I think that would be a question for Miles, as far as I understand.
Maybe it's worth opening up an issue to merge these teams. But in the meantime, there's no reason we can't add Salo and Ben and Saleh to both the teams. It's not like it's very much work.
Yeah, for sure. Since I would recommend that since there's no difference and that the Node.js Dev one is the more representative of the current state of the world, I would recommend that we just centralize on that one for going into the future rather than continuing the legacy of website redesign. That makes sense.
That does. Anyone on the call feel otherwise? Especially also website redesign folks? Sounds like people agree. All right.
I've gone ahead and added both of those. So
thanks, Tierney.
The invitations have gone out. Ben, you should have a new invitation that is available in your inbox, or if you go to the Node.js.dev repo, I think you should. No, I think it'd be the Node.js GitHub org, and you should be able to see that there.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Cool. I think that's the end. So are there any additional questions, comments, feedback on that one? I think we do need, there was a kind of, how am I forgetting what the word is? There was like a to-do or a task that needs to be done of creating an issue to merge those teams in the Node.js.dev repo. Manil, do you want to take that, or do you want me to take that?
I'm opening it right now.
Cool, awesome, perfect, problem solved. So with that, I think we've exhausted the agenda. So I want to thank everyone for joining us. And
Tierney, let me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but just something I was thinking about while we were having our meeting. I just wanted to raise if we had some time. The open office hours that I'm trying to get rolling, or have gotten rolling. I'd love to highlight specific areas that we want to try and encourage folks to get involved. Next Thursday in the meeting, we're going to have a little section on Express, or maybe it'll take up the whole meeting, I'm not sure. But I'd love for us to think about, and we can talk offline, maybe I should create an issue and we can discuss it there. But ways that we would encourage folks to get involved in the ComCom work or any of the initiatives that we have under our purview. So just kind of plant that seed.
Cool. Awesome. Any other updates from folks or final thoughts, things? Cool. With that, we can wrap it up. Enjoy the additional 20 minutes of your day back. Have a wonderful day,
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers.